SpaceX dominates Boeing Starliner completely. The private capital fueling the space race in the US still hasn't produced a competitor to pressure SpaceX, whose primary rival may be China's space program, not other businesses in the US and Europe, or Russia's space program. Welcome to Fortune Focus, people. Let's talk about space. As the year closes, Elon Musk's space company has flown 26 missions into space, only topped by the 34 sent into orbit by China's space agencies. While this is a crude measure of activity, it puts in perspective that the U.S. advantage in space Access 40 orbital launches took place in 2020 under U.S. jurisdiction is due to just one firm. Meanwhile, new and old companies that promise to match SpaceX, including Boeing, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, United Launch Alliance, and the satellite operator OneWeb, spent 2020 struggling to catch up with Musk's merry band. SpaceX has roughly 3 business lines today: launching satellites for others, launching and operating its own Starlink internet network, and flying humans into low Earth orbit. It's leading in all of them. Boeing Starliner lags behind as SpaceX gears up for second Crew Dragon mission. Last November, SpaceX successfully sent 4 astronauts to the International Space Station in its first operational Crew Dragon mission, under a NASA program aimed to regularly transport astronauts and payloads to the ISS and end the agency's sole reliance on Russian rockets for human spaceflight since 2011. In an interview, NASA's head of human spaceflight said the SpaceX capsule, named Resilience, is doing beautifully as a space station extension, and NASA is very happy with how things are going so far. SpaceX is expected to fly its next ISS mission, Crew 2, on April 20 using the same Crew Dragon spacecraft that flew 2 NASA astronauts in a demo test in May 2020. Also in April, Boeing test fly an uncrewed CST-100 Starliner capsule, the spacecraft designed to fly the same ISS mission in Houston. Both Boeing and SpaceX are contractors under NASA's Commercial Crew Program, a long-term effort to renew the agency's retired space shuttle program and increase crew size on the ISS. NASA commissioned the 2 companies in 2014 to each build a reusable rocket spacecraft system for transporting astronauts and payloads to the space station. SpaceX planned to use its workhorse Falcon 9 booster and a new capsule called Dragon 2, while Boeing planned to launch its own spacecraft atop a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, which is more expensive between SpaceX and Starliner. Despite the identical nature of their assignments, Boeing's contract is almost twice as expensive as SpaceX's. NASA agreed to pay SpaceX $2.5 billion for a spacecraft and 6 crewed round trips to the ISS. The agency committed to paying Boeing $4.3 billion for essentially the same mission and later added an extra $300 million to the contract. A 2019 audit revealed to cover Boeing's expense for an estimated 18-month gap between Starliner's second and third mission. Both companies ended up falling behind the original schedule they promised, but SpaceX delivered the project much earlier than Boeing. The Crew Dragon spacecraft was declared a success after it flew 2 NASA astronauts, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, to the ISS in a final test last May. By contrast, Boeing's Starliner is still struggling to lift its first uncrewed test off the ground. In December 2019, an uncrewed Starliner failed to reach the ISS and returned to Earth in a shortened test flight. Boeing has spent over a year since then fixing software glitches and addressing other technical concerns raised by NASA. Boeing has addressed 95% of the recommendations made by the company's orbital flight test review team based on the failed 2019 flight, NASA said in an update on February 17. After SpaceX, NASA eyes Boeing for space transport. Second Starliner test flight. Riding high on the success of Elon Musk-led SpaceX in private space transportation, NASA is set to add another new organization to its list of service providers as Boeing conducts its second orbital flight test on its Starliner capsule. The uncrewed flight test of Boeing's CST-100 Starliner is set to be launched on July 30. Boeing is eyeing a piece of the pie in terms of big-budgeted contracts for transporting crew and cargo to the International Space Station that largely goes to SpaceX, which has perfected the science of reusable rockets, making space travel cheaper and more effective. The second flight test for Boeing will see its Starliner capsule launch to the space station on board a United Launch Alliance ULA rocket and is expected to arrive at the space station for docking about 24 hours later with more than 150 kilograms of NASA cargo and crew supplies. The aerospace company wants to test the end-to-end capabilities of Starliner from launch to docking, atmospheric re-entry, and a desert landing. That's all for today. I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss any fantastic video from us.